9:15 a.m. The prestigious Eastbrook Hill Academy fell into an unprecedented state of alarm. Police arrived at the school gates just 12 minutes after a distress call from the administration. One of the 3 fifth-grade classrooms was temporarily locked down, while a county social worker rushed to the scene, bringing a recorder, official forms, and a cautious gaze. It all started with a test paper and a subtle cry for help from a young black girl. Amid the hurried footsteps and confusion, Melanie Carter, a 27-year-old white literature teacher with her blonde hair tied neatly, stood pale and shaken. Her hand trembled as she held the paper out to the principal. "I can't ignore this, sir." On the handwritten test, in the bottom left corner and in faint pencil, were the shaky words, "Help." Principal Philip Langford, a white man in his 50s, took the paper calmly, skimming through it. "This is from Nia Hamilton?" he asked. Melanie nodded. "She's usually so precise. Never scribbles. Never jokes or draws on her work. I think she's reaching out. Something serious might be happening. Maybe she's being bullied." Langford pressed his lips together.
Wait a second. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps us.
That name, Nia Hamilton, was far from unfamiliar. A 10-year-old black girl, the top student in her grade, with more scholarships than could be counted, and the adopted daughter of the Harringtons, one of the school's largest benefactors. Within 20 minutes, Eastbrook Hill's graceful rhythm shifted into full emergency mode. Nia was brought into the counseling room, where social worker Sandra Blake and District Officer George Milner were already present. Milner being a heavy-set man who moved with the caution of someone who knew one word could shatter a child's spirit. The girl sat curled in her chair, eyes fixed on the worn toes of her leather shoes. Under the fluorescent lights, her neatly braided hair shone against her dark mahogany skin. "Nia, did you write this line?" Sandra asked, her voice soft as silk. Nia gave a faint nod, her small shoulders trembling, though her lips remained pressed tight. "Has anyone hurt you, at home or at school? Is there someone you're scared of?" "No," Nia whispered. "I was just tired that day. I wrote it because I felt stuck. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that." George frowned. "No one's forcing you to say this." "No, sir," she replied, more firmly. "It was my fault." Just as the conversation teetered in fragile silence, the office door swung open. The Harringtons had arrived. Veronica Harrington, known for her high-profile campaigns on unlocking children's potential, entered with flawless poise. A white fur coat draped over a navy blue suit, high heels tapping crisply on the hardwood floor. Beside her was her husband, Gregory Harrington, a lawyer specializing in nonprofit advisement, dressed with precision down to the creases in his collar. "We received a message from the school and came immediately," Veronica announced, her annoyance barely concealed. "Can someone explain why our 10-year-old daughter is being interrogated by police and a social worker?" Principal Langford gestured for them to sit, his tone calm. "We found a message in Nia's test paper, and out of concern for her safety, Ms. Melanie reported it." Melanie opened her mouth to elaborate, but stopped. She could feel Veronica's gaze, sharp and scrutinizing, like someone who'd found a stain on the silk curtains of her estate. "Nia is our legal adopted daughter," Veronica said. "We have complete medical and academic records. Last year we were nominated as a model family by this very district. She's brilliant, well-behaved, and loved as our own. Academic pressure? Perhaps. But that's not a crime. Please don't twist our expectations into something toxic." Officer George exchanged a look with Sandra and gave a slow nod. No physical harm, no signs of coercion, no grounds for further investigation. By 1 p.m., the emergency meeting was officially closed. The school issued a formal apology to the Harringtons for the unfortunate misunderstanding. Ms. Melanie received an internal warning for disrupting reporting protocol. She didn't argue, but as she walked down the hallway, she caught Nia's eyes, a gaze both hard and sad, like a dried leaf pressed between the pages of a book. Melanie paused. "Nia, are you all right?" The girl nodded, then looked down. I'm sorry I wrote that. I didn't mean to cause you trouble. I was just tired during the test. Melanie didn't ask anything more. She gently placed a hand on the girl's shoulder and looked down the empty corridor. At a school where everything was polished to perfection, from the white walls to the glass doors to the curated glances of elite parents, sometimes a cry for help is labeled nothing more than a nuisance. Not long after the Help Me incident stirred the entire school district, Nia Hamilton's name resurfaced, this time plastered across promotional posters for Harrington Academy, a test prep center founded by the Harrington family themselves. The poster featured Nia in a crisp white uniform, holding a golden statewide outstanding student trophy, standing between two rows of red flags, her gaze lifted toward the light. Below the image, a bold slogan read, "From orphan to prodigy, an educational method that creates the unthinkable." Color flyers were handed out at supermarkets, churches, even post offices. Social media platforms spread the image like wildfire. Comments flooded in. Unbelievable. A little black girl can be this smart? The Harringtons truly are a modern miracle. Flowery words, but underneath them lay a default assumption, as if Nia's achievements were abnormal, a mutation of sorts for a child with her skin color, admiration mixed with prejudice. If a black girl could be that exceptional, someone must have sculpted her meticulously. No one asked how Nia felt, being turned into a slogan, or how every smile she was told to wear in those pictures became a stepping stone for the Harringtons to open yet another branch. Society had long championed holistic development over achievement chasing, and centers like Harrington Academy were typically frowned upon by parents. But since the Nia miracle, the Harrington model became a sensation. "I don't want my child left behind," one mother said at a PTA meeting. "If they can turn an orphan child of color into a prodigy, surely my kid can improve too." Enrollment surged. Families raced to sign up for trial classes. Harrington Academy became a golden destination for the newly wealthy. Meanwhile, Nia, the living poster child of success, appeared regularly in model prep videos, tidy braids, expressionless face, answering each question flawlessly. But at school, things weren't so dazzling. Since the Help Me incident, her classmates no longer saw her as someone to admire. A paper was secretly taped to her back during recess. "Nia, the troublemaker." In the bathroom, two girls blocked her way and said bluntly, "Who do you think you are, locking down the whole school like that? Used to attention, huh? Always pulling stunts to be famous?" Even her old best friend, Lily, started avoiding her, because Lily's mom had warned stay away from troubled kids. Nia said nothing. She just looked down more often, sat alone, and began fainting more frequently. Miss Melanie Carter, still reeling from her reprimand, quietly kept an eye on the girl. But that only made her the next target. In the teacher's lounge, when Melanie walked in, conversations fell silent. A few exchanged glances or let out subtle whistles. One colleague muttered, "Miss Carter, I heard you took Nia to the nurse's office again last week." "That's what, 4 times this month?" Melanie nodded. "She's often dizzy after afternoon classes. I think she needs a proper health check." The other teachers scoffed. "Maybe you should check yourself first. You can't always play the hero, you know." Parent groups began sending letters demanding surveillance of Melanie. They claimed she was chasing conspiracy theories and too emotionally invested. Principal Langford advised her to maintain appropriate distance from students and dawdled, creating unnecessary misunderstandings. But Melanie wouldn't back down. She couldn't, because Nia was withering away before her eyes. No longer the sharp, bright-eyed top student, now a Nia who looked pale, withdrawn, exhausted. She scored a B on her writing test. Couldn't concentrate in math. Fell asleep in class 3 times. Frequently asked to go to the nurse. Then one day, the scholarship announcement was posted in the hallway. List of students renewed for Q2 scholarships. Academic year 20. Nia Hamilton's name was no longer there. That evening, the official Harrington Academy social media account posted a new video, a clip of Nia at her desk, writing, With a clock behind her ticking 9:30 p.m., Veronica smiled in the corner of the frame. We always stand by Nia. Despite pressures beyond her control, she remains diligent, determined, and grateful. This is what any child can achieve with the right love and method. The post ended with a message. We hope certain individuals will stop casting doubts on our nurturing environment. In the comments, one anonymous account wrote, "Exactly. Some teacher needs to realize not everything she suspects is real." Melanie sat in her office, clutching the scholarship list. She had just caught Nia from her 6th fainting spell yesterday. "Are you okay?" she asked. Nia nodded. No words. Every time Melanie tried to probe further, the girl pulled away, her eyes like a baby bird flinching from sudden noise. All Nia left behind was silence and a streak of cold sweat on her forehead. But Melanie knew what was rotting Nia from the inside wasn't physical. It was a system far too skilled at turning children into smiling scorecards. Saturday night was colder than usual. The wind moved through the trees like it was whispering some secret to the ground. Melanie Carter sat in her old car, parked a few blocks from the Harrington Academy Test Prep Center. The headlights were off, engine silent. On the seat next to her lay a small video camera she'd borrowed from a friend in journalism. The clock ticked past 10. The familiar sleek black SUV from the Harrington estate rolled up quietly and stopped at the academy gate. Under the dim yellow glow of the street lamp, Melanie could make out Nia in the back seat. She wasn't in uniform, just a baggy gray hoodie, clutching a thick stack of papers. Her shoulders hunched as if trying to disappear into herself. A woman stepped out first, Veronica Harrington, the adoptive mother. Her steps were unhurried, her face betraying no fatigue despite the late hour. She opened the car door and simply looked at Nia through the glass, saying nothing. Nia stepped out in silence, headed down, and followed Veronica inside the building. Melanie hit record. Inside the prep center was another world. No childish colors, no drawings, no laughter. Just pale fluorescent lights, desks lined up against the walls, cameras in each corner, and walls plastered with overwhelming study schedules. Nia was led into a small room barely big enough for a single desk, one hard plastic chair, and a stack of mock exams piled nearly chest high. "You've done this one 3 times and still failed," Veronica said, her voice like cold steel. "Do it again. Until every answer is right." Nia mumbled, I'm tired. I'll do it tomorrow." Whack. The stack of tests slammed onto the desk. The whole room seemed to shake. "There is no tomorrow. Tomorrow is the scholarship evaluation deadline. You think we took you in so you could rest at midnight?" Nia said nothing. Her eyes dropped. Her trembling hand picked up the pencil. Veronica snatched the water bottle from her grip and knocked a small snack box aside. "No water. No food. Not until you finish. You live in our house. You earn it by being excellent." The door slammed shut behind her. The lock clicked. Nia was left alone in the room. No clock, no sound except the rustle of papers and her heartbeat pounding in her ears. Out in the hallway, the click of high heels echoed. Jasmine, Nia's adoptive sister and biological daughter of the Harringtons, stepped out from her personal live stream room. She yawned and groaned. "Mom, I'm so tired. Please make sure that little Nia gets that scholarship, okay? If she doesn't, how am I supposed to buy this month's limited edition set? That new hoodie only has 5 left nationwide." Veronica smiled. "Sweetheart, just remember, Nia is here so you can have whatever you want. If she doesn't do her part, then she doesn't need to stay." From the car parked down the block, Melanie was filming everything. The cold study room, the voices, the 18-hour-per-day schedules pinned along the hallway, the threats, the hollow woes of a girl she once saw laughing on a sunny September afternoon. In one shot, the camera zoomed in on the study schedule pinned to the board. 04:30 wake up, 05. 07. Euro 0, breakfast past the 07:30. 16 odd. Return to center, 16:30. Logic drills, 18 hours on, 20 years. Rewrite mistakes. 21:30. Read 3 chapters of new material. 23 zeros. Go home. If all completed. Melanie stared at that last line. If all completed. And her fists clenched. As if rest wasn't a right for Nia, but a conditional reward. As if her life wasn't that of a child, but of a profitable asset. 4 days later, she walked into the Norland County Child Protective Services office and placed a USB on the desk, filled with videos, photos, snapshots of schedules, voice recordings, all arranged chronologically, carefully. This is the truth, Melanie told the caseworker. I know I might lose my job for this, but if I stay silent, I can't teach literature another day. The woman, Lena Cruz, a brown-skinned caseworker with curly hair, took the USB and looked at her, eyes sharp. You did the right thing. We'll launch an immediate investigation, but we'll need the media too to make sure this can't be buried. Melanie nodded. At 3:00 p.m. that same day, she emailed a copy of the files to investigative journalist Jonas Patel, known for exposing the child abuse scandal at a sports center in the neighboring state. In her email, she wrote, "If a child has to finish exams at midnight just to earn a sip of water, then this isn't education anymore." She shut her laptop and leaned back in her chair. Outside the window, the cold still lingered, but the wind had changed direction. Nia didn't know it yet, but the door that caged her had begun to shake. Just 1 week after Melanie submitted the evidence, the story exploded like a media bomb. It began with an investigative article by journalist Jonas Patel in Truthline Weekly, headlined in bold black letters, "Prodigy or Prisoner? The exploitation behind a gifted training center." The article opened with a video clip. Nia locked in a tiny room near midnight. Veronica Harrington's voice yelling in the background. Nia's exhausted eyes and the pencil slipping from her fingers as the 10th exam paper was slammed onto the desk. Beneath the article was a photo of Nia's 18-hour daily study schedule. No weekends, no mention of playtime. Within 48 hours, the post had been shared hundreds of thousands of times. Analysis pieces, interviews, outraged tweets, and YouTube reaction videos flooded the internet and news broadcasts alike. Unbelievable, how can a 10-year-old be so blatantly exploited? And the school and society just let it happen. Academic success is no excuse for psychological abuse. A child wrote "help me," and the whole system ignored her because she was a top student. That's terrifying. The Harrington Academy was placed under emergency investigation. Within just 4 days, the authorities announced a permanent shutdown of all branches. The Harrington family faced prosecution for child labor exploitation, emotional abuse, and unauthorized commercial use of a minor's image. Veronica was banned from working in education. Gregory Harrington was stripped of all legal affiliations with child welfare organizations. Jasmine Harrington, once the perfect sister on social media, was publicly condemned for forced smugness over Nia's suffering. As for Nia, she was removed from the Harringtons' home. Just 48 hours after the expose aired, she was placed with a temporary guardian family, a middle-aged, childless couple living in a cozy wooden house near the city park. There, Nia began intensive trauma therapy and was allowed to take a semester off school to recover. No more towering piles of test papers, no surveillance cameras, no cold stares for scoring less than perfect. At first, Nia didn't speak, but then, slowly, she began to draw. Rough pencil sketches on paper, a room with no windows, a single desk. The words "help me" repeated over and over. But in the corner of the page, a small bird appeared. Then she started to smile again. And one day, she asked, "Is Ms. Carter doing okay?" Melanie Carter, once mocked, isolated, and reprimanded, was now honored at a city education department ceremony as the brave educator of The event was held in a modest hall, packed with people. When Melanie stepped onto the podium, she wore a simple blue dress, holding the mic with both hands, her voice slightly trembling. "I'm not a hero. I'm just a teacher who read a student's paper and chose to believe a line she wrote. I believe that if a child cries for help even with just 2 words, then it is our duty as adults to believe them. The audience rose in a standing ovation, not for the speech, but for everything she had quietly done, from school hallways to late-night recordings of the truth. Soon after, Melanie officially filed for adoption of Nia, not as a publicity gesture, but from the heart of someone who had watched a child be crushed in silence and refused to stand by again. June, end-of-year ceremony at Nia's new school. No one recognized the black girl who once graced educational posters. Now, she wore a simple white dress, her hair natural and loose, her face glowing, not weighed down by any titles. After the principal's speech, Nia was invited to the board to share what she'd learned most that year. She took a piece of chalk, faced the class, and wrote, "Help me," then drew 2 thick lines underneath. "Free." The room went silent. From the last row, Melanie, now her legal mother, smiled. In her eyes, Nia was no longer a prodigy or a black orphan. She was a child who had reclaimed herself. After the event, in a short internal school video, Nia spoke clearly. Don't turn a child's talent and effort into an adult's profit. Don't value academics so much that you forget to ask what the child really wants. I don't need a trophy. I just need a place to breathe and someone to believe me. And in the last row, there was someone who had believed her from the very first shaky pencil mark. Nia's story is not just the cry for help of a black child exploited for her academic talent. It is a wake-up call for how society treats brilliance, skin color, and silence. A child doesn't write "help me" if everything is fine. And when adults choose to dismiss rather than listen, we become part of the very trap tightening around them. Education is not a rope to drag out achievements. It is a hand, open and steady, meant to catch a soul on the verge of breaking. A true teacher is not the one who teaches best, but the first to believe a child when no one else dares to. Because sometimes the only thing that can save a life is an eye that refuses to look away.